After d4, d5, c4, knight c6, the Chigorin is on the board. In this video we're going to go through main line, pawn takes, and now queen takes back. As mentioned in previous videos, white cannot continue with the normal knight c3 move because we got double attack on d4, so knight f3, and now black plays the crucial e5. The idea is that as soon as white plays knight c3, you can pin it and take it next move. So after bishop to d2, I'm pinning the knight. Black is forced to give up the bishop for the knight, but that's fine. So in the previous video, we went through pawn takes c3 and everything that happens next. In this video, we're going to go through bishop takes. This doesn't change too much. e4, attacking the knight. So the two options we're going to go look at is knight d2 and knight e5. There's also going to be a video coming soon about knight to g1. Anyway, after knight to d2, black plays knight to f6. And after e3, in order to develop the bishop, of course, white cannot develop the bishop from the fianchetto because of the threat of e3 attacking the knight whilst attacking the rook with the queen, creating a mess which puts black in a much more favorable situation. So e3, black castles. Two options here. The very natural move, bishop to c4, attacks the queen with the tempos protected by the knight. Black continues with queen g5, attacking the pawn. White's best move according to the engine is queen to g2. If white castles, for instance, then bishop h3 will do a lot of favors. We'll see it in the next example. Anyway, let's go through best move, queen c2. Taking the pawn is too risky now according to the engine. Black continues with rook e8, putting more defense over the pawn in e4. So after white castles long, again, this pawn is too dangerous to take. So black continues with best move a5. And after white's best move, which is a3, of course black had an idea of playing a4, a3, right? And activated the a8 rook. Black continues with queen to g6. After white's best move h4, black plays bishop to f5. So all of this looked a bit weird at the beginning, but the goal here is that we place the queen in g6 because after moving the knight to g4, the queen will be able to walk along this rank. And the bishop was placed in f5 to protect this crucial pawn. This pawn can never really be challenged by the pawn in f3 because it will leave the e3 pawn very weak. It's subject of the attack of the rook. So let's make just a couple more moves to see how the endgame will be played. Rook d to g1, for instance, it looks very normal. You know, you're going to play g4. Black continues with h5. Important move to stop the g4 pawn from coming. Now after white's best move, which is bishop to b5, pinning the knight to the rook, black continues with knight to g4. It's crucial that we're able to take this back with the queen. And right now, black doesn't have to worry about the pin because d5 looks like wins material for white because you're going to have to move the knight and the bishop can take the exchange. But now black's best move is knight c to e5. And after the bishop takes, you go knight d3 check. The king can't go to d1 because knight f2 creates an incredibly dominant position and very, very serious trouble for white. So after white goes king b1, black simply recaptures the bishop in e8 and position is evaluated around almost -2. So black is just doing much better than white at this point. So going back a couple of moves, if bishop takes, we know we have to take with the queen, and black is considered so much better now than white. And if white plays, let's say, knight to c4, the rook in e goes to d8. The reason is simple. We had to unpin the knight because now d5 might have come for real, and knight c to e5 wouldn't have been possible because of the knight in c4. After bishop takes, let's make an example how to continue this game. Queen takes, and now it looks like white wins a pawn with an attack on the queen, and black really has nothing. But instead, black plays queen to d5, attacking the knight. And now, of course, white can't really spend time defending the knight by playing b4. You can simply kick away the knight, then you go infiltration of your pieces. Defending the knight is a very stupid move if you do it with the queen. So after knight b3, rook to d6. The idea is to place the rook in c6. If white plays any other move like rook f1, for instance, just to make an example, rook to b6 is super strong. And if white plays, let's say, knight to c5, you can play b6 and then the knight has to go away. So after the retreat, black continues with rook f6. Position is evaluated around -4 for black. The idea by black now is to play bishop to e6 with a double attack on the knight, attack the square f2 even more. The pawn in f can never move because knight e3 is devastating. So we're gonna leave it here. Let's make a recap. After d4, d5, c4, knight c6, and pawn takes is the main line. Queen takes, knight f3, e5, knight c3, we pin the knight, and after the bishop unpins the knight, you take it. In this video we're going through bishop takes, so e4, knight to d2, knight f6, and now e3. Black castles, and earlier we went through bishop c4. Let's have a look at another example, bishop to e2. Again, thematic, queen g5 attacking the pawn, and of course here castling is not bishop h3, and black and white doesn't have any square to to go with the pieces, there's threat of checkmate. So g3 is the only move. Bishop takes, bishop takes. How do we simplify this endgame? Now queen to f5, and after bishop to g2, rook f to e8. White has no compensation. A move like f3 in this case, you can just take, and after knight takes, knight to d5. Now we're threatening the pawn with 2 pieces, so the queen can't really go and protect it. Pushing his pointers, you can take. So after, let's say, knight e5, stopping the influence of the rook and allowing an attack on the knight, black takes the bishop, pawn takes back, and now the black player takes the knight, and black goes to a very comfortable endgame, as you can see. So one last thing I need to mention, in this variation, either bishop c4, bishop e2, for instance, we go g5, queen g5. So what happens after this move? g3. Here, it is very ugly, but kind of the most solid thing that white can play at this point. Everything else loses. With the usual rook e8, and after castling, bishop h3, proving that the white player has lost control over the light squares here, but he might thinking he still has the light square bishop, but still, after rook to e1, black is not up material at least, so black continues with knight e7. So after bishop to f1, try to neutralize this very powerful black bishop, black swaps it, and after rook takes, white might be threatening to play f4. Anyway, black plays h5. This is the best move. We have an obvious threat of going to h4. And after f4, of course, taking is detrimental for black. So black plays the thematic queen f5. It's the best move. So let's look at this option. White plays queen to b3, activating the best piece, threatening a pawn, not having to worry about the rook going anywhere on the second rank because of the bishop. Black continues with h4. Taking will be terrible, obviously. So after queen to b7, black takes the pawn, and after pawn takes back, queen to g5, and now king to g2 will be met by knight f5. Is too strong to meet. Black is completely winning. If king goes to f2 with the possibility to involve the rook in the defensive lines, then rook a to b8. Queen moves, and now knight to g4 check. We're threatening this pawn as well, so the king will have to go this way. Looks like he might find some safety. So now knight to f5. The position is fantastic. Black is going to infiltrate the knights, potentially the queen as well. So after knight to c4, to defend this square a little bit further, queen h5 closes the game. Also because, what else can white do? Attacking the queen is pointless because of knight g3, and there's no moves here that don't give black an advantage of like -6 or -7. So it's a very fun position to continue.